Marcus Spears on ESPN's NFL Live talked about this Browns-Bengals matchup, specifically Myles Garrett.
To me, it was so extraordinary that they were able to get to the Super Bowl last year with the way that their offensive line played. And that just shows the greatness of Joe Burrow, these skill position players, and that defense that gets left out of the conversation. But more importantly, they were a straight drop back team. Like the things that we're talking about, what Mina just talked about with Joe Burrow's legs, what we talk about with him taking the underneath against shell coverage, the willingness to run the football, they haven't been doing that. And that's allowed Myles Garrett to take advantage of protection and when he gets those one-on-ones. So now with different elements of this offense, I don't expect Myles Garrett to have the same type of success. Now, with that being said, like, let's keep this in context. Myles Garrett probably will get home. He probably will make a few plays, but he's facing a different offense with a different approach, which in turn should help the Cincinnati Bengals. But it's still, I believe, is going to be a very good game, an intriguing game because of what Cleveland does offensively as well.
Man, you know, if you're Myles Garrett, like, it's one thing to get home a few times, but Joe Burrow has been sacked 17 times in 4 games against the Browns. And yeah, that's third most by any quarterback against a single opponent since he entered the league in 2020. He's like, please don't make me face the Browns. And Myles
got 9 of them.
And again, Greg, that's kind of more of what we're talking about. Now, let's take a look at this. This is really interesting as well. Common themes in Burrow's losses to the Browns. So the Bengals have surrendered the first score in 3 of the 4 games. Burrow has been sacked, as we just heard, 17 times, and Nick Chubb has averaged 121 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns in the first 3 games against the Burrow-led Bengals. So if you want a recipe for how the Browns do it, that is your recipe. Score first, get to Joe Burrow, have Nick Chubb have success.
If you're the Browns, why are you changing anything at this point? I mean, yes, you're integrating Deshaun Watson, and it's going to be vital that Deshaun Watson's play is improved from what we saw last week in Houston. 12 for 22 for 131 yards. It's not going to cut it in trying to beat a team like the Cincinnati Bengals. But it does almost seem like, for everything that's invested in him, what the Browns think he's going to be one day, he could be a big player in this. Nick Chubb has had all the success in the world. The Bengals, it's the same thing for the Bengals defense as it is, for the Bengals offense. They see Myles Garrett, they see Nick Chubb, they know what's coming. And it's not like, they never face him. They face him 2 times a season. They know what's coming. And, up until this point, they haven't shown any way that they can basically stop the bleeding, stop the hemorrhaging that they get from the running game, that they get from Myles Garrett and spending so much time in the Cincinnati backfield. Look, Cincinnati, and it is kind of ironic, though, because at the end of the day, this is one game for the Cincinnati Bengals. It probably doesn't alter, what happens to their team as far as postseason and where they can go, this, that, and the other thing. And the Browns certainly want to be able to keep themselves breathing, through the final stretch of the season here. But these are issues that Cincinnati has had for a while. They just can't seem to, whether it's Joel Bitonio, whether it is Wyatt Teller pulling, getting the linebackers opening holes, and then Nick doing, the impossible, like hurdling guys. The Browns' 2-star players, every time they face Joe Burrow, it almost seems like these guys, step their games up. And at the end of the day, we walk out of there talking about the Browns' 2-star players, not the Bengals' star quarterback.